we're going to continue on with our Bernina Mastery Sewing Workbook on the 5 series. In this lesson today, we're going to do altered stitches. So I'm going to select the blanket stitch from the quilting menu, and I'm going to select stitch 1309. Now I already have my 20C foot on the machine. I want to adjust my stitch width to 3.5. I'm going to adjust the stitch length to 4.1. And again, on the Berninas, we can either do the scroll bar, or I can use the plus or minuses to where I would like to go. So now I'm going to sew a row of stitches. Just so we can see how this one works. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I want to revert the stitch length on my screen here. So if I collapse that menu, you can see that both of these numbers are in yellow, telling me that I have changed it from the default. To go back to the default, I can slide the bar down to here, or I can just tap on the box that has the yellow outline around it, and it automatically goes back to the default. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch a row of stitches on this one. Okay. So this was with the 3.5 stitch width and the 4.1 stitch length. As you can see, this row that I just stitched, they're much closer together, so this is the default length, but I left the bite or the width of the stitch at 3.5. So what I'm going to do now is show the temporary altered memory on this machine. So let's go back to the display on the sewing machine. So I'm just going to close this menu, go back to my utility stitches, back to a standard number 1. Now if I pull up that 1309, it actually remembered what I did. So that's temporary memory. Until I turn off the machine, it will remember what this stitch is. So let's go ahead and save this stitch. So I have a particularly favorite blanket stitch I use for applique. I would like to save it. So I'm going to go ahead and touch the I menu. And it's very straightforward. You see where the save is? It looks like a little diskette. and I can go ahead and save it. That is now saved. If I had wanted to delete the saved stitch, I could just hit the diskette with the line through it. So if I go ahead and close this, I want to recall my stitch. Let's go ahead and turn off my machine. I'm going to turn it back on. Let's recall this stitch that I permanently saved. 1309, I made changes to it. How do I know that this has been changed? It's got yellow around it. So that's a visual reminder to me that I have altered this stitch, and that's permanent until I go and change it. So I could hit the no save, and that's the diskette with the line through it, and now everything's back to default. So let's go ahead and save stitches in your personal program. There may be times where you want a default stitch and you want the altered stitch. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to change my blanket stitch again. Let's make it a little wider. Let's go up to 4. And I want to change the length. I want to make it smaller. Now I can always use my knobs as well. So on the Bernina 5 series, I can change it here, I can change it here, or I can use my knobs. And as you can see, as I turn counterclockwise, my stitches are getting smaller. Let's go to 2. Perfect. So as I just showed in the previous exercise, I could have permanently altered the stitch by saving it. But let's say I want to put it into my favorites. So let's go ahead and close this. Let's select the heart. So this is to retrieve. You have the file folder with the arrow going up. This is with the file folder going into. Now you'll have 4 programs or 4 file folders where you can store this in. Let's go into here, and I've just saved it into my personal file folder. So I want to recall that stitch that I saved. Let's go to 1. I always like to go back to what I call home, which is stitch number 1. Let's go into your favorites, recall the stitch number 1, and here is my favorite stitch that I originally saved in file folder 1, and it was the first one I saved. Okay. My width was 4 and the length was 2. Now if I want to go ahead and delete, it's going to ask me where I want to delete it. You'll notice it has an X on it, a red X. Am I sure that I want to do that? Yes. Yeah. Now it's telling me the size that I have available for storage. I have 100% available for storage on my machine. This would show the USB, and it's showing me my breadcrumbs.